Is Jackson Arnold ready to contend in year one in the SEC? We'll find out on today's episode of Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. My name is John Williams. You can follow me on Twitter at John9Williams. My buddy Josh Helmer, not with me tonight, but you can follow him on Twitter at JoshOnRef. The show is at Locked On Sooners. Make sure you hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts, and over on YouTube, make sure you hit that notification bell and the like button to make sure that Locked On Sooners stays at the top of your algorithm. But the SEC is the biggest topic of discussion for anybody in Oklahoma fandom. The Sooners are making their way to the SEC for the first time this year. They'll officially be members in less than 6 weeks' time, which is exciting. Paul Feinbaum is going to be in Norman to break in the Oklahoma Sooners and welcome them to the SEC. And it's going to be a year, man, that's going to be something to remember. I know that, there's a lot of discussion about where Oklahoma sits in the SEC hierarchy and the tier structure, what they're going to do in year one, if they're going to contend or not, what they're going to look like as a unit on both sides of the football. Are they ready for the SEC? Things of that nature. But I want to break it down and come back to the quarterback situation for the Oklahoma Sooners and talk about Jackson Arnold, because I think this is a part of this discussion that's getting slept on a little bit, in that, okay, we're worried about the offensive line. We're worried about the defense. At least some people are worried about the defense. I'm not worried about the defense. I'm not worried about the offensive line, but you can see that there are reasonable questions about the offensive line, not just from, the national writers, but at least from, inside the SEC, also inside, Oklahoma territory as well. There are reasonable questions about that. There are reasonable questions even about your quarterback, Jackson Arnold, who's going to be making his debut as the starting quarterback for the Sooners for a full season this coming fall. And we got to see a little bit of Jackson Arnold, early in the season in non-conference play against Tulsa in the Arkansas State win. And then we got to see him in extended Jackson Arnold time against BYU in the second half in Provo. And then we saw him for a full game against Arizona. And I'll contend that there were a lot of really encouraging things that Jackson Arnold did last year as a true freshman quarterback, a lot that he can build on, a lot to learn from, but also a lot of really positive things that he did that he can continue to improve on. We saw him in the spring game. You look at that spring game and maybe not his best completion percentage game and not what you want to see from your starting quarterback at 50-something%, but the talent was there. And everything you want to see from a starting quarterback going into the SEC, I think we've seen from Jackson Arnold so far. Is he ready to contend in 2023 or 2024 rather? He doesn't have to be. He does not have to be the focal point of this team for this team to be successful this season. But I think he's going to be really, really good. We've seen the arm strength is really good. The vision is really good. Now, against Arizona, I think he got caught slipping and sleeping on a couple defensive coverages and situations that allowed him to throw the ball into some dangerous predicaments. But I think that's going to get better and that's going to improve. We're not going to see a 3-interception game from Jackson Arnold very often, or a 4-turnover game from Jackson Arnold very often. I think we're going to see a more efficient player, a guy that's able to take care of the football a lot better and understands that, hey, I don't have to be the thing that drives us to wins every single week. I've got a defense that's going to be really good. I've got a running game that's going to be really good. And so for us to win as a team, I have to take care of the football, hit the throws that are there to hit, which, he was pretty accurate in the win over BYU. He was pretty accurate aside from the interceptions against Arizona. And hey, I'll say those interceptions, they were going to the right spot. It's just Arizona made some really nice plays on those balls that led to the turnovers. So it wasn't like he was overthrowing a dude and, the safety just happened to catch an interception. No, the interceptions were all really good plays on balls that were really good balls by Jackson Arnold. And so I think this is a quarterback that Oklahoma can win with this season. I know a lot of people, we want to look to 2025 as the year that Oklahoma is going to be ready to contend, that's going to be the season where it all kind of comes together for the Sooners, whether it's on the offensive line, on defense, whatever it is. We're looking at, okay, year 2 of the David Stone and Jaden Jackson and Nigel Smith and Danny Okoye and Wyatt Gilmore era. We're looking at, year 3 for that young linebacker group, not named Danny Stutzman, the cornerback, development that's going to happen on defense. But why it's important that he's ready to contend this year, and why I think he's going to be, is because of the experience that you have on the defensive side of the ball, with Danny Stutzman coming back, Billy Bowman coming back, Woody Washington coming back, Dejon Terry coming back, the addition of Dominic Williams, the addition of Caden Woolard, Ethan Downs still in the trenches. This is a very, very experienced defense that's going to help take a lot of the pressure off of your young quarterback and allow him to be a contending quarterback for the Sooners. Again, he's not going to have to do it all. He's not going to have to be Baker Mayfield or Kyler Murray or Jalen Hurts. He's not going to have to go Superman like Caleb Williams did in the Red River Showdown back in 2021. He won't even have to be Landry Jones to a lesser extent. Like, Landry Jones put up big time numbers for the Sooners, but those were kind of at the end of the Brent Venables tenure in Norman, and the co-defensive coordinator situation with Mike Stoops and how all that went down. And Landry and the offense were forced to put up big numbers for the Sooners to be really good. And I don't think Jackson Arnold's going to have to do that. He's not going to have to go out there and throw for 4,000 yards and 40 touchdowns for the Sooners to win big games and to win games in the SEC in year 1. I think he's going to be good enough. And I think there are going to be games where, okay, he throws for 230, rushes for another 30 or 40 yards, throws a couple touchdowns or has 2 total touchdowns. But the Oklahoma Sooners win because, hey, Gavin Sawchuk had a nice day running the football. The defense did a really good job, limiting big plays and taking care of business on their side of the ball. They were efficient on third down and getting the ball back to the offense. This is going to be a team that plays much more complementary team football than what we've seen in a long time. And that's why I think Jackson Arnold is ready to contend in 2024, because the team itself is ready to contend in 2024. Now, will they go win an SEC championship? Will they go, win a national championship? I mean, all that remains to be seen. But I think you can comfortably say by November, when they get to November, this is going to be a team that's in SEC contention, definitely in college football playoff contention. And a lot of it will be because of Jackson Arnold, but also because this team is going to be really, really good. I think Jackson Arnold's going to go have a great year in year 1 as a starter. He's been really, really good given the opportunities. Yes, you don't want to see your quarterback have 4 turnovers in a football game. He knows that. He's going to learn from that. But I think we're going to see a lot more big time stuff from him that is the stuff that made him a 5-star quarterback prospect. It's going to be the big deep ball. It's going to be the running ability. It's going to be, running that RPO game with good efficiency. I mean, Deion Burks, we saw the breakout that he's going to have. Nick Anderson's going to be healthy and ready to go for the fall. Andrew Anthony at some point will return and provide another big play threat. Jaden Gibson is already showing that he's taking steps and making strides to be a big time playmaker. And that doesn't even include a guy like Brennan Thompson or Jaquays Petaway, Jalil Farouk. I mean, this wide receiver group is deep. The offensive line is going to come together. Feel confident about that. The running game is going to be good. The defense is going to be good. But it does come back to Jackson Arnold. He's going to be really good. He's going to have to be, but I think he's going to be really good. And again, he's not going to have to be great every single game, but I think he's going to be good every single game. And it's going to give the Oklahoma Sooners a chance to win a lot of football games this season in 2024. Why is the Oklahoma safety group not in Jesse Simonton of On3's top 10? And I don't understand. We're going to discuss that next, coming up here on Locked On Sooners. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is the place to go get in on the action with us here on the Locked On Network. You can bet $5 Any winning $5 bet, you get $150 in bonus bets over at FanDuel. New customers, especially. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. That's $150 on any winning $5 bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com to look at odds for the NBA, the NHL, NFL futures, NCAA futures as well. Again, FanDuel.com/locked on. So Jesse Simonson of On3 produced a list of the top 10 safety groups in America for the 2024 college football season, and your Oklahoma Sooners were not included in that group. And listen, lists are lists. Everybody's going to have their opinions on them. There's a lot of subjectivity to it. We're going to just say that out front. There's no real way to objectively compare safety groups. But one thing that strikes me is some of the rationale for not including the Sooners in the top 10. Now, again, this is Billy Bowman coming back for a senior season after he set the world on fire with touchdown returns, interception returns for touchdowns, interceptions, playmaking ability, was huge in the Red River Showdown. Oklahoma's biggest win of the season, hitting Jatavian Sanders coming across the middle, leading to an interception on Kendall Dolby, stopping Xavier Worthy at the goal line on that 4th and 1 screen play that they tried to run. Just big time player in big time games. Had an interception in the Oklahoma State game. Had interceptions all throughout the season. That BYU 100-yard pick six that really was the biggest play in that game, especially with Dylan Gabriel out and Jackson Arnold having to lead the way the rest of the way. That was huge, man. That was so huge for them. And he had a great season, was probably going to be a top 100 pick in the NFL draft had he gone into the draft in 2024, decided to return to Oklahoma. And that safety group that the Sooners have, it's going to be one of the best in the nation this year. I don't care what Simonson says. He can talk about pro football focus player grades all he wants. Listen, I'm a big fan of Pro Football Focus for the advanced stats that they create. I really, really like especially the yards or the receiver stats, the defensive stats where it breaks down pressures and it breaks down, tackles and stops and things like that. I think his rationale for why he didn't include the Sooners, considering that Billy Bowman wasn't, one of the top graded safeties in the country, is flawed. And listen, Pro Football Focus does a good job. They watch a lot of tape, they watch a lot of film, but the thing that they can't always grasp is exactly what the defender's assignment is when it comes to coverage grades. When it comes to zone coverage in particular, or man, it's not always the receiver or the defender that's getting beat isn't always the guy that was responsible for that area. And if he, gives up a play in zone coverage, that happens because they're playing a zone. They're not playing a man. And so it can be a little bit flawed, but you can't look at Billy Bowman and you can't look at what he did without talking about the way he impacted the game and scored points for his team. Yes, not one of the highest graded players last year. Okay, but he scored 6 touchdowns for the Sooners defense that helped them win games. Had so many picks. It was hard to count how many picks he had at the end of the year. He was just always around the football, and he was a good enough tackler. There were times that Oklahoma's, tackling kind of, fell through the roof a little bit, but, Billy Bowman was not the issue on that front. Okay, sorry, 6 picks and 3 pick sixes on the season. Had an NFL passer rating of 66, which is not very good. Like that's a not good rating. If a quarterback is targeting you and you only allow a passer rating of 66, that's pretty solid. Only allowed a reception percentage of 58.1%. Among safeties last year, that 58.1% was, it's going to be in the top 60 of the FBS safeties. I mean, there's a lot, and that's not too bad. I mean, you're going to get targeted a lot in the Big 12. The Big 12 is going to throw the football a lot. That's just the reality of the situation. But, to only allow a reception on 58.1% of your targets, that's all right with me. In stops, he was kind of middle of the pack among safeties that played, at least 50% of their team's snaps. He was, I lost where he was. I'm looking at the stats over at Pro Football Focus right now. He had 20 stops, and this just kind of a stop by Pro Football Focus. He was 72nd in stops. Okay, well, he wasn't asked to play along the line of scrimmage very much. But a stop is just any play that results in a net negative for the offense, whether it's a stop on third down that leads to a fourth down, or a stop on fourth down that leads to a turnover and downs, a stop within 3 yards of the line of scrimmage on first, or 6 yards of the line of scrimmage on second down. That's what defines a stop. And he's not going to get a chance to make a lot of stops when the defense that's playing in front of him is much improved. But this is still an ascending player. And then you go beyond Billy Bowman and you look at a guy like Robert Spears Jennings, who is another ascending player. And when he's gotten opportunities to be on the field, he's made plays, whether it's in the run game or on a safety, a nickel blitz or a safety blitz or something like that. He just plays fast, plays hard, tackles hard, and is just really, really good. Peyton Bowen, another one. I mean, the sky is the limits for this group. And that doesn't even include the true freshmen that everybody's really excited about, the Michael Boganowski and the Reggie Powers and Michael Patterson McDonald and Jaden Hardy. I mean, this is a really, really good group, and it's a really, really deep group. And okay, who cares that Jesse Simonson didn't include them in the top 10? But I think what's going to be fascinating is to see how people talk about Oklahoma's safety group at the end of the season. Because again, I think a lot of people are sleeping on Oklahoma, and they're sleeping on just the amount of talent that they have. Oklahoma has recruited at a really, really high level since Brent Venables has come to Norman, and they've done so really well on the defensive side of the ball. And we're starting to see this turn from, okay, a great offensive team that was pretty flawed on defense during the Lincoln Riley and Alex Grinch era. And we can even go back to the Spencer Rattler 2020-21 years where, okay, maybe they were a little bit flawed on offense too, because, that 2019 class that had Jaden Hazelwood and Trajan, Bridges and Theo Weiss didn't really pan out with Spencer Rattler like we thought it would. But then and so you didn't get all those blue chip prospects to stick around, whether it was the 2019 or 2020 or 2021 recruiting classes. Those things didn't really work out quite like you wanted them to on either side of the ball just yet. But Brent Venables has recruited and developed pretty well, and especially at safety. Now, Billy Bowman was a Lincoln Riley, Alex Grinch recruit, but he's really taken off under Brent Venables. And I think another year in the system, another year with Brandon Hall is going to help him and the rest of the safety group go to another level defensively. And by the end of the season, we're talking about, hey, man, that was one of the best safety groups in the country on one of the best defenses in the country because of their ability to make plays, not just in the passing game, but in the run game as well, and mitigating what teams are able to do at the tight end position in the passing game and not allow runners to run wild on them. So, okay, it doesn't matter what Jesse Simonson thinks right now. It doesn't. But it's going to be good fuel for the fire if they needed any fuel for the fire at all. But I think this safety group is going to surprise, and it's going to earn a lot of respect from a lot of people across the country this season. Hey, teams who are earning a lot of respect across the country, that's OU softball, that's OU baseball. Let's discuss what's going on with them coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn helps you hire the professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role in a given month. So over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're looking for or if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. They have 2.5 million small businesses using LinkedIn for hiring right now. So go post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. The Oklahoma Sooners softball team made it to super regionals with a 3-2 win over the Oregon Ducks. It was an awesome weekend. They started strong with Nicole May absolutely dominating Cleveland State, and then Kelly Maxwell comes back in against Oregon. Well, comes in against Oregon. She starts the game and is outright dominant. She gives up an early home run, but then from then on just completely befuddles the Oregon Ducks lineup. Has another big strikeout game, and then on Sunday in the elimination game, the regional final against Oregon, Nicole May comes back with another fantastic start, allows just one earned run, but has another big strikeout game and sets the table for Kelly Maxwell to come in and finish it with two really strong innings. Things are coming together. Nicole May is putting it together in the right time. She kind of had an up and down season as far as, her ERA goes, was good at times, but then got hit some at times. Well, she's back, man. She is back to keeping the ball down in the strike zone, which is huge. Using her pitches, using that changeup, using that rise and that drop, and keeping hitters off balance. She's, throwing with good velocity inside, getting in on hitters and keeping them jammed up. But it was just, the pitching staff, Maxwell and May in particular, were just downright dominant over the weekend. Only, 3 runs allowed in 3 games. That's really good. That's going to win you a lot of games, and now sets up a super regional with Florida State, the team that they beat in the national championship series last year. This is a Florida State team that's been up and down all year long. They were expected to be much better, but haven't quite risen to expectations, but they get through their regional unscathed, go 3-0 with wins over Auburn and UCF, or over UCF and Auburn, and then somebody else. I can't remember exactly who, but get through the Tallahassee regional and then come to Norman next week for a really interesting 2-15 matchup. I think, you start at the beginning of the season and you say, okay, Oklahoma and Florida State are going to match up in the NCAA tournament. You're probably expecting it to be the Women's College World Series, but that's not where we're at. We're going to see them in Norman at Love's Field next weekend for what could be 2 or 3 games. And hopefully the Oklahoma Sooners are going to come out on top in that one and win the Women's College World Series. Another notable name, Tiare Jennings, I think really started to turn it on. She had 2 home runs over the weekend, had a big RBI double or RBI single with 2 outs and 2 strikes to help pace Oklahoma in this one. Jada Coleman's been really, really good. Riley Boone's been really good in the series as well. It's just all kind of starting to click. This is the time of year where Oklahoma rises above everybody else. It's what we've seen over the last 3 years. And this is looking like a team that could win 4 straight. The team that we saw in the first 2 games in Bedlam, in kind of the month leading up to Bedlam and the Big 12, and then the Big 12 tournament, was a team I think most were wondering if they would win that 4th straight national championship. Many, I think, were kind of preparing for the reality that they might not. After winning 3 straight, I think it's hard to envision a team winning 4 in a row. And up until, midway through Big 12 play, that loss to BYU, or the series loss to Texas, and then the series lost to Oklahoma State, I think most everybody was like, oh, they'll turn it on. Oh, they lost 2 series this year. Maybe not. Well, they turned it on. They've turned it on since that Sunday game in Bedlam, and then just rolled through Big 12 tourney play. And again, look like the team to beat and the team that we've expected them to be all year long. Now they need to get some contributions from other parts of the lineup that haven't really been coming through, but the pitching looks really, really good, and the offense is just as explosive as ever. They're a team that's taking kind of what the pitchers are giving them. They're not looking for the long ball every time. They're looking to go the other way quite a bit and taking advantage of some of that. And Jada Coleman's double was just that. Like, they were shading her so far to go the other way from her left side of the batter's box. They were shading her hard to left field. The center fielder was, but she pulled it and dropped it right in between the center fielder and the right fielder and had all kinds of room to run. Avery Hodge was able to score from first on that one because there was so much room to run. So everything's coming together for the Sooners. It's looking really, really strong right now. Now get a Florida State team that's hungry, that's going to look to get a little bit of revenge from the national championship and look to prove that maybe some of their early season issues aren't reflective of who they are as a team. So it's always going to be a dangerous team anytime you play Florida State, and especially in the NCAA tournament. But this is going to be it's going to be a battle, and I can't wait to see how Patty Gasso and this pitching staff and Jennifer Rocha, how they attack Florida State. Who, we're going to see Kelly Maxwell, who's going to be the next pitcher that we see is probably going to be Nicole May after the way she threw this weekend, but also wouldn't surprise me if we see Kirsten Deal get a start as well to keep Florida State off balance and keep everybody guessing as to who is going to be that number 2 pitcher. Just a quick little note before we talk baseball, but I don't know if you saw the end of the game or OU social media's post of the end of the game, but Kelly Maxwell did not celebrate when she struck out the final batter. She just turned around like it was no big deal. Obviously she was going to go, high five with her teammates and then, greet the opponents and things like that. But there was no like roar. There was no throwing the glove. There was no fist pump. She just turned around like, yeah, I was expecting to do that. So she's in another zone right now. She's all business and she's ready to go and go help Oklahoma win another national championship. And if this is the Kelly Maxwell that we get in Supers and then the Women's College World Series, and we get that Nicole May, man, I'm fully expecting Oklahoma to go and win the whole thing. On OU baseball front, obviously the top seed in the Big 12 tournament. It's going to be a big Big 12 tournament for the Oklahoma Sooners. They've got a lot to prove and they've got a lot to play for still, even though they're really, really likely. They're probably going to get a top 16 seed where they can host a regional, which is going to be huge. And that's going to be great for Dell Mitchell and for OU baseball fans to be able to see their team playing in the NCAA tournament at home. But as the great Toby Rowland of OU baseball, radio play-by-play, and of KREF in the mornings, here's what he had to say. In his opinion, Oklahoma locked up a regional host by winning a series at Cincy, but also here's what's at stake for OU in Arlington. If they win the Big 12 tournament, they could likely earn a top 8 seed. If they lose in a game prior to Saturday, that would be the national or the Big 12 title game, then probably going to be a 9-16 host seed, which means if they win their region, they'd have to go on the road for a super regional. But if they lose in the Big 12 championship game, they'll kind of be on the bubble of a top 8 seed. So this, winning the Big 12 tournament is huge for them, because if they win their regional and they win the Big 12 tournament, then they can earn that super regional host opportunity, which, home field advantage matters, especially if Oklahoma fans are able to show up and show out like they do for softball. Then you could create a great environment that makes it really, really difficult on whoever has to travel to Norman to play in the super regionals. So big series for the Oklahoma Sooners going to Arlington for the Big 12 tournament. Make sure you check that out. The action's probably going to be on ESPN, ESPNU, but it's going to be a lot of fun this week. This is a fun team to watch with a lot of offense and really, really timely pitching. So they're going to have a chance to go deep in the Big 12 tournament as well as deep in the NCAA tournament. And maybe we're looking at our second College World Series run in the last 3 years. And dude, Skip Johnson has done a phenomenal job with this group, did a great job in the transfer portal last offseason, and it's coming to fruition so far this year. But that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. Hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Hit a like button as well so that the show shows up in your algorithm on a regular basis, and other Locked On shows as well. So check out another Locked On show. If you're a Locked On Thunder fan, go check out my man Rylan Stiles with Locked On Thunder, who is going to break down everything that happened in the Thunder Mavs series and where OKC goes from here as well. If you want to get in on NFL action, go check out your favorite football team. We've got you covered here on Locked On across the network with your favorite pro teams here on Locked On But also, go check out the Locked On Sports Today channel. You watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day, have to turn down the volume with all that shouting. Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, our free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube and the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So for my buddy Josh Helmer, I'm John Williams. We're going to be back tomorrow to talk non-conference schedules. Which home game are we most excited for? And which home game will OU show up on that opposing fan bases might be the most excited for in the 2024 season? All that's going to come up on tomorrow's show here on Locked On. But I'm John Williams. Follow me on Twitter at John9Williams. The show is at Locked On Sooners. Until next time, Boomer Sooner.